It was an ordinary Tuesday afternoon, and I was alone at home with our dog, Milo. My partner, Jake, had gone to work, and I had the house to myself for the first time in weeks. Milo, our playful golden retriever, was lying on the couch next to me as I scrolled through my phone, catching up on messages. But something felt different that day, an unease that I couldn't shake. I had been sensing it for a while, like a weight pressing down on me, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. It wasn't until the doorbell rang that I snapped out of my thoughts. I wasn't expecting anyone, but when I checked the peephole, it was Jake's best friend, Tim. Tim was always around, but this time he looked off. He was nervous, fidgeting with his hands. I hesitated before opening the door. "Hey, can I talk to you for a second?" he asked, his voice low. I invited him in, unsure of what was coming. He seemed uncomfortable, glancing at Milo, who was wagging his tail excitedly. There was a strange tension in the air. Tim started, then stopped. "Look, I don't know how to say this, but you need to know something about Jake." My heart dropped. The weight of his words felt like an anchor, sinking into my chest. What could he mean? I had been sensing something wrong in our relationship for months. Jake had been distant, almost like he was pulling away. But hearing it from Tim felt like a punch to the gut. "Jake," Tim continued, swallowing hard, "he's been seeing someone else." The world felt like it had stopped spinning. The room was silent except for Milo's soft panting. I couldn't breathe. Tim went on, telling me how he had accidentally found out how Jake had been emotionally involved with someone else, someone at work. It wasn't just physical. There was emotional betrayal too. Jake had shared things with this person that he had never shared with me. My mind raced, the emotions overwhelming me. Anger, hurt, confusion, disbelief. As Tim spoke, I couldn't help but think about the emotional distance between Jake and me lately. The late nights at work, the sudden disappearances, the conversations that didn't go anywhere. My mind flashed to those moments when I had brushed off the small signs, telling myself it was nothing. Now, it all seemed to make sense. Tim seemed genuinely sorry, but I wasn't sure how to process this revelation. It felt like someone had ripped the rug out from under me. As Tim left, I couldn't stop thinking about it, about the love I thought was unbreakable, the trust that had been shattered. I sat there with Milo, trying to wrap my head around what had just happened, but all I could feel was the cold emptiness where certainty had once been. Later that evening, Jake came home, completely unaware of what had transpired. His usual greeting felt forced, and the lies he casually dropped into conversation were like daggers to my heart. I couldn't bring myself to confront him yet. The weight of Tim's words lingered too heavily. The incident with Tim had uncovered the truth I had been avoiding. The emotional attachment I had with Jake wasn't the same anymore. I realized how easily I had been deceived, how trust had been manipulated, and how I had allowed myself to be emotionally attached to someone who had never been as fully present as I thought. It wasn't just about the affair. It was about the emotional toll, the complicated feelings of betrayal, anger, and hurt. I now had to decide what came next. Could I still love Jake knowing the truth? Could I ever trust him again? Or was it time to let go of the past and rebuild my life, with or without him? Milo, ever the loyal companion, was the only one who seemed to understand as I sat there alone, battling with my emotions. Emotional attachment in relationships is often a complex, multi-layered experience, one that goes far beyond surface-level affection or shared experiences. It is the deep connection we develop with another person, built on trust, mutual understanding, and shared vulnerabilities. This bond can be so intense that it shapes how we perceive the world, how we interact with others, and how we define our own sense of self. When emotional attachment is involved, it creates a psychological and emotional investment that can significantly influence our decisions, actions, and reactions. In relationships, emotional attachment serves as the foundation for both the positive and negative experiences we encounter. When everything is functioning well, emotional attachment fosters security, love, and intimacy. However, when something goes awry, it can lead to feelings of betrayal, confusion, and heartbreak, particularly when the emotional bond is tested by infidelity. At the core of emotional attachment lies the need for validation, reassurance, and closeness. People in emotionally intimate relationships often invest so much into the bond that it becomes intertwined with their sense of happiness and self-worth. This emotional investment is not just a passive experience. It becomes a part of one's identity. For example, when partners spend years sharing dreams, fears, and day-to-day moments, those interactions shape how they see each other, how they define their relationship, and how they ultimately feel fulfilled. In the context of long-term relationships, especially those that are heavily emotionally driven, the emotional attachment can become so significant that the thought of it being threatened or compromised can trigger immense emotional responses. This is where the complexity of infidelity starts to unfold, as it tests the limits of emotional attachment in ways that no other challenge might. When a relationship faces emotional turmoil, such as the betrayal caused by infidelity, the emotional bond that has been so carefully nurtured over time becomes a double-edged sword. On one hand, the emotional attachment provides a sense of connection, closeness, and understanding. On the other hand, it can amplify the feelings of hurt and betrayal when that bond is broken. The pain caused by infidelity is not just about the physical act of cheating. It's about the destruction of trust, the violation of the emotional space shared between partners, and the sudden unraveling of the emotional investment one has made over time. This is why infidelity, even if it's not always a physical act, can cause such deep emotional scars. The individual feels not just rejected or replaced, but also betrayed by someone they trusted enough to invest their emotions in. It is the disillusionment that follows the discovery of infidelity that is often the hardest part to process. The emotional attachment, which was once a source of security, becomes the very thing that deepens the pain of betrayal. Furthermore, when emotional attachment is involved in a relationship, the feelings of guilt, shame, and confusion that arise from infidelity are often amplified. For someone who is emotionally invested in their partner, cheating isn't simply about the loss of physical intimacy. It is about the loss of a sense of emotional belonging and connection. The emotional upheaval that follows such a betrayal involves a complex web of emotions, from sorrow to anger to disbelief. It's not just the thought of their partner being with someone else that hurts. It's the idea that they were emotionally neglected, or that their emotional needs were not being met. It becomes an existential crisis of sorts. Was the emotional bond I thought we shared genuine? Did my partner truly understand me the way I thought they did? These questions are not easily answered, and the emotional roller coaster that follows is something that can take years to process and heal from. In relationships where emotional attachment runs deep, the sense of attachment itself often clouds the ability to make rational decisions. Love, as a deeply emotional experience, can make it difficult to see beyond the attachment to a person, even in the face of betrayal. This is why, in many cases, individuals in emotionally attached relationships might forgive infidelity or choose to stay with an unfaithful partner. The emotional attachment, though broken, can make it hard to let go. They may rationalize the betrayal or believe that the emotional bond can be restored. This attachment, while capable of creating strong bonds of love and affection, can also make it challenging to sever ties. Even when the other person has caused immense pain, it can create internal conflict where love and hurt collide, often leading to a struggle between holding on to the past or moving forward from the betrayal. At times, Infidelity involving emotional attachment can manifest in subtle, less overt forms of cheating. Emotional infidelity can occur when one partner becomes emotionally involved with someone outside the relationship, without necessarily engaging in physical intimacy. The emotional bond with another person grows to the point where it competes with, or even surpasses, the emotional bond in the primary relationship. This form of infidelity is particularly complicated because the betrayal isn't as immediately obvious as physical cheating, but the emotional consequences are just as severe. When a partner emotionally invests in someone else, it raises difficult questions about the boundaries of love and intimacy. In these situations, the emotional attachment that was once shared between the partners can become strained, leaving the person who feels betrayed questioning whether their relationship was as meaningful as they believed. In relationships deeply rooted in emotional attachment, the fallout from infidelity isn't merely about the loss of trust. It's about the rupture of the very emotional fabric that held the relationship together. The sense of betrayal runs deep, as it disrupts the sense of connection that partners have with each other. This emotional rupture can feel like an irreparable break in the foundation of the relationship, causing both parties to reconsider what their emotional attachment means. Is it a bond built on a foundation of love and mutual respect? Or is it something more fragile, contingent on constant reinforcement? These are questions that arise when emotional attachment is tested by infidelity, leading to a journey of self-discovery, introspection, and ultimately, a reckoning with the future of the relationship.